And a friend of mine, Dave Hudson, was a chippy, and my downstairs in my house become a woodworking place. And he built these speakers and a custom built deck system with 3 decks in it.
Really?
And that was about 70, 75. Froggy was a class act. So much respect for him. I mean, he was groundbreaking.
And I was like, you know, I couldn't believe how good this sound system and this light show actually was.
Well, the sound system, that's a great story. As I say, Paradise Garage, and I cringe now when I tell you this story, because we come in and said, look, we need to have a fire process, you know. What's an unlikely record you never play? And I went, Teddy Bear's Picnic. So we had it on a cassette in a red box, you know, and it from Paul. I remember it so well. And he went, what are you doing Monday? I went, nothing. He went, I've got a gig for you. Come down to Evan, and he said, be there for 9 o'clock. He said, oh, you know, you're on at 10 until 1 o'clock. I said, what do you want me to play? He said, all that stuff you played me around your house, but don't talk. Just have a, I can say this, he had a blast on his amyl nitrate and it just bash into the lights, and you know, so you had, at different times you had this light spectacular lasers going off and smoke machines and everything. Well, Ogie said to me when before I went to that gig, he said to see how you go, he said you might feel like you've been hit by a train when you get there. and it was just like it was everything I would ever want in a club was on that Monday night.
Play a little bit of the 60 seconds.
Why not?
Yeah, let's grab the speaker. Right.
When the chimes end, just try.
Oh, don't make Colin, don't make me laugh. Right.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Right, lights, camera, action. On this week's show, we have someone who's been DJing from work for well over 40 plus years, since the 70s, who was playing soul, jazz funk, disco and Motown back in the day, who was resident DJ at huge clubs like Goldmine in Essex, the Monica, Wings in Gravesend, Flicks in Dartford in Kent, who later on in 1988 become resident DJ at Port Oakenfold Spectrum and Land of Oz Night at the legendary Heaven nightclub, who has also produced and remixed around 20-30 odd tracks. I mean, I've lost count how many tracks you've actually done, including anthems like 60 Seconds, Audio Deluxe, Strings of Love, and so many more. He's a powerhouse of music knowledge and lives and breathes music. I'm excited to say we have the mighty talented, the one and only Colin Hudd in the back.
I thought you was going to big me up, Steve.
I'm out of breath. I'm out of breath, mate.
Lovely to meet you.
Listen, we haven't even started. But listen, we could get the red carpet out for you, mate. I mean, you know, we are talking serious, you know, serious musical knowledge, the production. You know, being resident DJs in all these massive clubs. So, you know, I'm really excited to be talking to you, and it's an honour to have you in the back of the cab.
It's not. Do you know what, Steve? It's nice to be in the back. Can I just check you have got the meter turned off?
Yeah,
you
it's
did
definitely
promise.
turned off, mate. It's definitely turned off. If I had it on, it'd be about £400 on the meter. Because I know you're going to be in here for a little while. But I mean, as I say, your history runs deep. I mean, legendary clubs like the Spectrum and all that. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And I also want to give a person I want to give a shout out to is Ray Keith, because it was really when I was reading Ray Keith's book that I actually come across you, because you know Ray bigs you up in his new book, which is brilliant, called Dark Soldier. So big up Ray Keith.
He asked me to do the forward for that book. I mean, you know, Ray's one of them people. There's a few people in life I found that they kind of play it forward, you know, or you do things and then somewhere along the line it comes back, and you don't even realise sometimes the influence you're having on people. And when you get these things come back, and Ray was a perfect example of that, you know. He always gives so much respect, and it's a beautiful thing. It's quite crazy because he credits me for, you know, influencing him, and he plays jungle now, and I think, how did that work?
Well, we will find out how that works, and you know, Ray Keith is an absolute diamond, and I'm going to be hopefully meeting Ray soon to be talking to Ray.
Yeah, he's a beautiful human being. Yeah.
But let's kick it off. I mean, let's go take it back to the start. You know, back to the root, back to where it all started for you. You know, whereabouts are you from, and what was it like growing up? You know, as a kid, what kind of era was you growing up in?
I grew up, well, I'm a 50s kid. I was born in December 1950 in Tilbury, Essex. So I'm a very Essex boy, in case you couldn't tell. And yeah, that was my musical influences around that time. I older brother George, who was 7 years older than me, and he was banging to Elvis. So my indoctrination was, you know, that rock and roll, all that stuff that he loved. He used to keep all the charts each week in a pull-out book. And funny enough, what I didn't realise at the time was my mum used to be mad on Nat King Cole, and she'd have box sets of Nat King Cole. And when you're a kid, it's not your kind of groove, is it? And yet, as I've got older, I realised that she got me into that song.
She got you into really decent music.
And even Elvis Presley was, you know, based himself on soul music, and you know.
Well, Elvis was absolutely massive, wasn't he, back in the day?
Yeah, and he was like, you know, he loved gospel, you know, so all of that, you know, you don't realise your roots that are coming through, but I know that is my original roots. And
looking back on it, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I was saying, then I went to school in Tilbury, and there was a school teacher who I don't know, I used to stay extra in her lessons, and she'd let me try all these different instruments. And I remember bringing a violin. I'd take different ones home. I remember taking the violin home, and my dad saying, I hope you don't like that. But yeah, and I used to play chime bars. I love vibraphones now, funny enough. So yeah, she saw that in me, and you know, sort of helped me, you know, saw that kind of musical bent I had. And then I was in a silver band.
Was you really?
I was. Well, not for long, but I remember I always remember my brother always took the mickey out of my arms. Were incredibly long, and he used to do 8-bit impressions of me as a kid running through the house going, "Here comes Colin." And when I went into the band, I went, "Oh, maybe we're getting to play the trombone because he's got long arms." I thought, I ended up with this B flat euphonium. So yeah, I had that, and then I left there and I went into a choir. I was a choir boy for a while. So when I look back at it, Steve, I had all of that stuff. It's only as I've got older and I look back and I think, yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on musically, you know.
And there was huge kind of like decent kind of inspirations, you know, coming through. You know?
It's funny, I don't know, when you're younger, it's like Tony Bennett and Frank Sinatra. It wasn't my sort of thing. And then as you get older, you realise how classy they are, and you know, and I love all that stuff now, you know.
Smooth and yeah. But they got kind of like, you know, that kind of groove and soulfulness about them.
Yes, yes, exactly.
It's all coming from the soul, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all from the soul. And you know, what basically made you want to, you know, start DJing? I mean, you know, we're going. Yeah, what made you want to start DJing? I mean, we're going back to the back to the early 70s.
Yeah, early 70s, and it was funny. I used to go around. A mate of mine had gone into mobile discos, but we used to go, and there was weekly taverns which had loads of. You might remember, Steve. They were everywhere. They used to take over pubs and a weekly tavern, and they'd put a disco in there, or a sound system in there, and a DJ. And I used to go along with a girlfriend at the time, and at the time as well, which sounds really scuzzy now, but they used to have topless go-go dancers, or no, not topless, no, they had go-go dancers in these places, which is a bit like podium dancers now, but they'd have these girls would be there doing all these, you know, in skimpy tops and everything. And she used to dance like one. I said, maybe I should get a disco and you could be me go-go dancer. It's not as scruffy as it sounds, you know. So anyhow, you know, I set up this disco. I was going to do it with my mate, so we called it Gemini, and he dropped out. But it was, by that time I called it, and I only got bookings for me as a DJ. Never got booked as a go-go. Got booked once for a go-go dancer. So yeah, that was my indoctrination into it.
You know, as a mobile DJ, I mean, what was the decks and kind of like the mixer? And also, you know, back then it was all about, you know, selecting the music and then giving shout outs.
Yeah, well, it was all about talking. That was all part of it. That was the English way, wasn't it? I had at the beginning I had Garrett SP25 Mark IIIs. That was the turntables and a cheap. I think the first mixing system was a foul foul sound. And then years later, a few years later, I had a house. I had this big house, and I had these some friends brought me around these copy of these speakers called Altec Lancing. They said you could copy these and build them with the plans I got. And a friend of mine, Dave Hudson, was a chippy, and my downstairs in my house become a woodworking place. And he built these speakers and a custom built deck system with 3 decks in it.
Really? And
that was about 75. It's a funny story.
Did you say 3 decks?
Yeah, 3 decks.
Wow.
No, we were still only. That was before the Technics, so that was Residency 25 Mark IIIs. I say, wasn't it? And anyway, so eventually made this custom deck and had a cigarette lighter in it and everything. It was beautiful. So I've got all this. I went to put it in the Transit I had. It was all too big for the Transit.
No.
Talk about the 6Ps. Yes, I had to buy a twin wheels based Transit.
Just so you could fit the
So I could fit the stuff in.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and after I'd finished that, then I moved into clubs, and I went from earning quite a good bit of money on that because I was right busy. I had all the youth clubs in Essex I was doing, which was really good. And then I wanted to go into clubs, so I remember leaving, passing a friend of mine, John Oveld, took on my sound system and the bookings, and I'd done a deal with him, and then I did the Monaco. I went to the Monaco. I was getting £5 a night. I know it sounds ridiculous, it's all relative.
And £5 a night back then was probably a bit of money.
Well, yeah, but I mean the disco was going out to £35, so it's a hell of a drop. But then so it's £5, and I was warming up for the DJ. So I was the DJ's warm up, and you're just waiting for that Brit. And then he got another job. That was a weekly tavern at Monaco, and then he got moved on to another club, and I took over from his spot. And I was doing comparing, DJing, and all of that, But of course, that whole mobile thing of doing weddings and everything gives you a great way of reading the room and adaptability. Obviously you have to play a lot of different stuff. I think
100%.
Yeah.
When would you say it went from kind of people started to take off doing the mixing? Because I know there was DJs, legendary DJs like Froggy. And Froggy was an absolute beast of a mixed DJ. Do you know what I mean?
Froggy, it was really interesting, Steve, because I was. There was a guy on Record Mirror called James Hamilton used to promote it, and the first club over here that I can remember tried to promote it was a club called Stage 3, and I think there's a guy called something Pete Romer who came in from Germany, and he was the mixer, and at the time that was 79, and we were all thinking that won't work because the way over here was always talking. Froggy was mixing, but talking as well, because that was the way. It's always a bit alien for the Americans. They never did that. They just mixed records. Froggy was a class act. So much respect for him. I mean, he was groundbreaking. There was a few other people. Graham Cantor in Gulliver's was a mixing DJ. And then while I was at Flicks, I started to try and teach myself, because obviously I couldn't be taught. I was working 4 or 5 nights a week. So I just still had to do the talking bit, this is, that was, and all of that business.
But you're still having a little dabble with mixing.
But then what I was trying to do, I thought, well, I'll try and put that one in, because I was reading what James Hamilton was writing and the beats per minute and all this, and I thought, well, if I try and do that, and then so I was getting quite good at it, I was sinking it in, and then I could still do the mix, and I was having a bit of fun, because I'll be honest, once you're playing a record and it's playing. I've got a bit of ADHD and I get a bit bored just standing there, and DJs can't dance, and so to do the mixing in between or try and get something, see if it would match in, was a bit of fun for me as well. And then we had a guy called Rusty Egan who come down and started doing a New Romantics night in Flicks.
Well, wasn't Rusty Egan like one of the faces of like the Blitz?
The Blitz, yeah. We took over a Monday night we was doing at Flicks. I know we jumped a bit, but and it was funny, we had the meeting, myself and Mike Keane, the owner, we had a meeting with Rusty, and he said, yeah, all right, I'll do the Monday nights, and I'm going, do you want flyers? He went, no. And I was thinking, this ain't going to work, Monday night, But
one thing, can you tell me, Colin, one thing, how on earth did Rusty, come from like, you know, the Blitz in the West End to go into this like big nightclub in Kent called Flicks. How did that happen?
I don't know. Mike Keane said to me he'd heard of the Blitz and everything. He said to me, I've been approached by this guy or some or other, you know, Rusty Egan, and we went down and had the meeting with him. And I don't know if Steve Strange was there as well, but I just remember saying to Rusty, do you want some flyers done? He went, no, don't worry about that. And I remember thinking, well, this ain't going to work. You know, you've got to promote it, you've got to do it. First Monday night, it was rammed.
Really?
There was a guy from Human League there, you know, the guy did... We Are the World or whatever it is, you know, and all of them, all of those faces were coming down, and they just turned up because of it was that networking thing of and it was a new romantic night. And then he brought down, we were the first, Depeche Mode did their first live gig at Flicks.
No.
I always remember 2 phone calls from Rusty Egan. And he phoned me up because I was doing that night. The owner of Flicks didn't want to do Mondays because that was his night off. So it ended up that was my night. And Rusty phoned me up once. I've got 2 acts coming down. He said the first one. He said you got to spell it right and pronounce it right. Depeche Mode.
Wow.
I went, yeah. He said you're paying them £100. He said the week after you got Soft Cell and you're paying them £100 as well. You know,
that's incredible.
You couldn't make it up, could you? You know, and a few weeks later, Soft Cell were #1. You know, it's like.
And how did the locals of, you know, this place in Dartford in Kent, you know, this club Flicks, which later become obviously Zens, but you know, this Flicks nightclub. How did the crowd react to all this kind of, you know, really kind of groundbreaking music at that time, you know, coming through? Did they accept it, or did they want a party classic?
It was a different crowd, Steve. We had lots of different nights. You know, Wednesday night we had an over 25 crowd, which is, you know, my night was a Friday and Saturday. Robbie Vincent and Jeff Young were there on a Thursday. So generally we were playing sort of heavy jazz, funk and soul and disco on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Wednesday was over 25. Tuesday night was the teen scene.
Well, that's when I used to, because I moved from South East London to Kent, and Flicks was probably like the first kind of big club I actually went to in 1985.
Right.
Around then.
Well, the teen scene was amazing because it was a Tuesday night. We get 600 kids in between 14 and 18 because we could have them in and listen. Used to do Coca-Cola, and of course the record companies loved it because midweek they had a 600 people audience. We had Tina Marie come down. It was Kajagoogoo come down. You know, the week after they were #1 in the charts, not because of the Flicks visit, but you know, so they loved bringing all these down. Yeah, the girl from Forget Me Nots, Patrice Rushen. It was just stunning names, like big names were coming down on. Well, apart from we get them on a Friday and Saturday as well. But on a Tuesday, they loved coming down there because it was like 600 people on a Tuesday, you know.
If it was for teens, Colin, what sort of time, because I can't remember, what kind of time was it finishing?
Teen scene was 11 o'clock.
Oh, 11 o'clock?
Yeah, 11. Well, it might, do you know, no, it might have been 10 o'clock. I think it went from 7 till 10 o'clock. It's a long time ago. Yeah. I'm sure it was 10 o'clock. It was a school night, so yeah.
Because I know you started in Flicks in, was it 1978?
December 78, December 22nd, 1978.
And you had a good near on, what, 10 years there?
I had about 8 years there. I left there in 1987, and then a year later I was up with Oakie, so
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to talk about that. But staying on the. Tell me about. We'll go back to Flicks in a minute, actually, because I want to go into a bit more detail about Flicks. But tell me about the gold mine as well. When was the gold mine?
Gold mine was strange. So I was working at the Monaco, which was, in actual fact, less than half a mile away from the gold mine, and. I obviously, you know, Goldman, Chris Hill was there, and he'd moved away, and then they were auditioning for DJs, and I thought I'll have a go for that. So and by the time I was also working then at a place in Gravesend called Wings, and I thought I'll put in for that, and it would have been doing, I think it was Thursday, which was a party night, and the Saturday. So I went there and did, you know, and the audition was, I mean, you can't, you know, how do you audition a DJ? The audition was doing a night's work on the Thursday and the Saturday, and there were 4 DJs went for it, and I got it. You know, so I was there for a couple of years, and then, strangely enough, a girl I was seeing, Heather, at the time, when I was working at Wings, she said to me, she lived in Dartford, and she said to me, "Oh, I've seen an advert. You know, to get a license, people have to put the thing up in the paper. You know, see if there's any objections." And it was Flicks. It used to be a bingo club, but before that it was a cinema. But she said,
"Is that why it was called Flicks?"
Yeah.
Because obviously Flicks back in the day was meant
going
cinema,
to the Flicks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so yeah, it was a bingo, and he just said, I think he's turned it into a disco or whatever. So I sent him a sort of quick resume or whatever, and funnily enough, there were 3 clubs in Canvey Island. There was the Gold Mine. You went a bit further, you had Monaco, and if you went a bit further, there's a place called Bardo's. And basically, what used to happen was, if you couldn't get in the Gold Mine, the next one you go to was the Monaco, and if you couldn't get in there, if you couldn't get in, you end up at Bardo's. Yeah. And Mike Keane, who owned Flicks, owned Bardo's, so
really?
he'd get all the skag ends turning up there. And funny, it was Chris Hill's first or second wife, and he said, she had said to him about, he said, "Oh, it's Colin Hudd." She went, "Oh, he's not bad actually," and he went, "Oh, he got in touch with me for Bardo's," he said, "and he's applied for this." So yeah, and he came down to Wings and liked what he saw, and that was it. So I was in right at the ground floor, you know. I'm happy to say. So I watched it all being, literally was going down and watching it being constructed. You know, when something looks too good to be true, and I kept looking at it and thinking, wow, this is big, this is massive. And he was such a forward-thinking man, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, at Own Flicks, Mike Keane, I mean, he must have been very, very kind of switched on and very open to decent music.
Well, he was, and he was one of these, he would always say, well, you can't tell people, you know, when the designers would come in and go, "Is that?" He said, "Well, you don't argue with the designers, that's what they do." And I think that was his philosophy. If you were there to do a job, then you did your job, and he didn't tell you what to do, because that's what you were there to do. And I'm looking back on it, I realise now how clever that was, because, you know, if he trusted you, you don't tell somebody, you know, it's like I don't tell you how to drive the cab, you're the cab driver, you know. So that's what he did. He was always open to new ideas. He wanted a trendy club, you know, and he got a trendy club. He got, you know, I was voted #1 club for years running, you know, and it was from his forward thinking, you know, an open-minded, forward-thinking guy, you know.
Well, you know, and also another thing about Flicks, you know, which was absolutely on another level, was actually the sound system and also the lighting, because the sound system and the lighting were, I remember going there and I was like, you know, I couldn't believe how good this sound system and this light show actually was.
Well, the sound system, that's a great story. As I say, it was forward thinking. I was talking to him one night about, you know, about New York clubs and what was going on out there, and he went, well, "What about we go over there and have a look?"
Wow.
And we did. We flew out there, me and my first wife, and he took his partner at the time, Debbie, and we went to. We had a list of clubs. Jeff Young had given us a few names of clubs to go to. I think it was Red Parrot. I can't remember all the others, but I think Studio 54 had finished at that time, but there was a club called Paradise Garage, and I cringe now when I tell you this story, because I can't wait to get to Paradise Garage. I've heard all about the Richard Long sound system. That's my journey to see that.
Was it a beast?
Oh mate, it was just these huge cabinets with big towering cabinets above it, and I always compare it to when I went in there and it was running. Now, bearing in mind, we've got there at 12 o'clock, and as I walked in there, and it's quite empty, and I'm listening to the sound system, it's like you're being massaged, you know. It's like, I always compare it to like a V12 just ticking over. It's like throbbing, and it was, and I was just like, and then my immortal line was, I turned out to Mike Keane and I went, "This is really sad." I said, "This was the best club in New York." I said, "And there's hardly anyone here." And yeah, we left it another hour or so and we went home. When I get back, Jeff Young says to me, "You don't start till 12. He said it finishes at 8 in the morning."
No.
He said they were just coming in with you. I felt so.
What did you have to go back another night?
No. I mean, you kind of know. I mean, we've been to enough stuff. Yeah, I knew what the sound was all about.
And what was the light show like in there as well?
No. I think really, Powder's Garage was predominantly about massaging you with sound. You know, and I've always said people don't dance to lights. People don't dance to treble. They dance to a nice thumping bass, you know. And it was just. So then we were coming to the sound system refit, and once again, I turned around and said, "Look, you know," because when it opened, it was like really a cheap sound system in there. And at one point, I'd bought my old mobile speakers in because they were massive, and it was getting to the point where it needed it. So a guy came in, Keith Harding. And we put in this custom built system, and he said, "I'm going to put your bass bin in because bass is mono. It doesn't matter where you put it. You don't need lots of bass bins. One big one will spread out."
Are we talking about
Big Bertha? Big Bertha.
The Big Bertha.
So,
I've experienced Big Bertha.
we had to put a drinks rail on it because girls kept sitting on it for some reason. And it was Big Bertha was the big bass bin by the dance floor, and of course it just took off. I mean, we had the best club in the south of England with the best sound system,
and it wasn't just the sound system as well. The light,
and then of course after the refit, after the fire, we had a fire in I think 82, 81, 82. Morrissey and Mullen were the band on stage, and then so now because there'd been a big fire in, I think, the Isle of Man, and some people had died, and there was new fire rigs, and the fire brigade had come in and said, "Look, we need to have a fire process, you know, what's an unlikely record you never play?" And I went, "Teddy Bear's Picnic." So we had it on a cassette in a red box, you know, and if there was a fire, you played Teddy Bear's Picnic, and that was so the staff knew there was a fire. And so anyhow, Roger and Mullen had walked on stage, just started performing, and suddenly they're hearing Teddy Bear's Picnic. Well, Dick Morris always said to me, he said, the reason we knew to run was, he said, while we're waiting for you to introduce us on stage, he said, I'm reading the fire instructions to everyone in case of fire, blah, blah, blah. So he said, as soon as we had Teddy Bear's Picnic, we just dropped the instrument and went. I think they were out of the building as quick as anyone. And so after the fire, we had to refit as well, and we had the sound system then, and they put that lighting system in, which was, you know, the suspended thing that used to go up and down. Fantastic.
It was on another level.
It was.
You know, Flicks was like, you could say, like super club with this big bass in sort of like music, and the music was on another level as well. You know, tell me about, you know, the kind of music you was playing down there. What was it kind of like? A combination of soul, funk, and party music.
It was soul, funk, disco on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and but then what happened was, and then of course you had New Romantics on a Monday, Teen Scene on a Tuesday, Wednesday was just party for the over 25s. After a while, Jeff Young and Robbie Vincent left the Thursday, and we tried a few different things on there, and that was an interesting one. I actually had Paul Oakenfold and Pete Tong come down and did a night there for a while on a Thursday.
Well, that's right, because Paul Oakenfold, I think at the time, was living in Greenhive, and Pete Tong was around the Dartford kind of area.
I think he'd left Greenhive by then. I think he was living in Coleshill, and he was in London then, but I definitely.
And Pete Tong was like a local.
Pete Tong was Gravesend. Yeah. Pete Tong, funnily enough, used to come to my gigs in Wings on a Tuesday night. I used to do an upfront night there on a Tuesday. So yeah, we're old friends.
So how did that happen with, like, you know, Oakenfold coming down to Flip?
Well, I knew Paul. I'd met Paul a few times. My mate Brian Morris, who's the upstairs manager, used to talk about this guy who was into music and you had done a bit of work with him. And then we just met, and then Paul was working with a promotions company as well, so he was coming down. But I had this night on a Tuesday when Jeff and Robbie left, you know, I needed something in there. And I was in charge of all the entertainment. So I put, and by this time, Rusty had finished on the Monday night. I think he'd gone up to Camden Palace. So we needed something to do on a Thursday. So I put Paul and Pete Tong in there for a year. And they were doing this sort of cross between modern music and true New Romantics, a bit of everything.
Right, did Mantronics come down?
That was on Mantronics come down on a Friday. No, that was so good. Mantronics.
Because I'm a massive fan of Mantronics, especially his production.
No, they turned up. As I say, we used to get loose ends down there. You know, Erskine Thompson used to bring down all these different acts for me, and he brought Mantronics down. When they turned up, there was kind of a couple of street DJs for me, you know, and then I gave them the decks and said, go on, you know, and they jumped on and just performed, you know. I can't remember what they did, but I just remember my jaw dropping and thinking, like, wow.
This is Mantronics.
Yeah, it was, yeah, but what they were doing as well was just, God, I wish I had cameras back then, do you know what I mean? It was just, yeah, it was one of my favourite bits, you know, them performing on the decks.
And how about Herbie Hancock?
Herbie Hancock came down on a Thursday night with Jeff and Robbie, along with Ramsey Lewis, who come down. Mays came down.
Yeah, Mays, Herbie Hancock. I mean, these are all, you know, proper legends.
McFadden and Whitehead. Yeah, it was just, no, that's what I mean. It's like when someone said to me when Tina Marie died, did it faze you? And I think you got so, it sounds a bit blasé, but you got so used to it. You know, you just bring them in, introduce them to the crowd, and you know, I think that, yeah, but I didn't, you know, you don't even think of asking for an autograph yet. No. You know, it's Tina Marie, you know.
And there was no camera phones back then.
No. But what I was going to say, I was talking about mixing and everything, when we was talking about learning to mix and everything, the great gift that I found with that, apart from giving me something else to do, and what I wanted to say was, Rusty Egan came down one night, and he was in the box with me while he was doing the Monday night. So he went, your mixing's really good, but he said they're not in the same, what is it, the 4x4 or whatever, so the beats would be in time but the structure would be wrong, so I'd be bringing them in on the wrong bars. So, you know, I was always listening for that constructive criticism, you know. And another friend of mine come down, Terry Ray, once, and he said you're mixing good, you go from one to the other. He said, but one's louder than the other. He said, you need to get your levels right. So they're all things you have to sort of polish your art, you know.
And was there a pivotal, like magazines you'd read, like the Record Mirror, Blues and Soul? I mean, was there pivotal kind of like magazines you'd read through to, like, you know, think, oh yeah, well this is the latest music? Yeah,
Record Mirror was a good one, and also Blues and Soul. I mean, we run and Black Echoes. We won Best Club and DJ in there for a couple of years, and then Blues and Soul we won it for 2 years running.
In terms of mixing and equipment and this, that and the other, would you say it would be like the Technic SL1200s that was kind of like changing the game up, and then obviously these new mixers like the Geminis and all them realistic, they were kind of, you know, bringing in another level of mixing?
There was a Matt amp mixer that Froggy had helped design, and obviously Technic's 1200s, because they were state of the art. But once you was mixing on that, Froggy had actually put bits on that mixer that were good for a mixer to use. I used to use a crossfade a lot, and certain kill switches and everything. So the Matt amp was a superior mixer of its time. It was one of the best. I mean, it's kind of surpassed these days by what's out there. But that was the other thing I was going to say about mixing. The great thing about mixing was when house music came along, which I was bang into as soon as it came out. Now, if you're breaking a new record, which is a great thing about mixing, is if I've got a new record and they're listening to a tune that they know, if I can mix a brand new tune in and they're all going like this, they'll keep going like that. Now, if the record's got legs, they'll keep going with it, and then sometimes they might go, oh, I don't know this one, they might stop dancing. So you could introduce new music, new tunes, but you could also introduce a new sound, which was house music. So in 1985 I was dropping house tunes you know, because I never got into the hip hop thing.
But you wanted that kind of what, uplifting, soulful sound?
Yeah, and I used to love some of the gay stuff that was out, some of the high energy stuff. Though, you know, even early white Village People did a track. I remember Hollywood was on their first album, and it was quite high energy, but it was such a great tune. Even now, listen to it. Yeah,
Can you remember some of them like early sort of house? Because I mean, I was talking to Jay Strongman. Big up to Jay Strongman, by the way, because I interviewed Jay.
Yes, but, yeah, no, I listened to that. Very enjoyable. That and Mr. Little.
Oh, Dave Little, yeah, definitely, absolute brilliant. But like, you know, then like Jay was also, you know, they was also playing a lot of the early house stuff as well, around kind of, you know, 85ish. So
yeah.
Can you remember a few little key tracks that you used to be playing?
Oh, Wham Bam, Marshall Jefferson. There was, I can't,
Charlie Jack Master.
Yeah, but it's so, you know, my short term, and I've forgotten more than I've remembered in my life. I think, you know, it's like these days. It's funny when you asked me to do this, I started trawling through stuff and trying to, you know. There's a friend of mine called Ardil, and it's funny. He's like my memory. He's never had a drink or a drug, and he remembers everything. And he'll say to me, "I remember you used to mix so-and-so into so-and-so." But how do you remember that? You know, I can't remember. You know, because when you're doing it 4, not 5 times a week, it all becomes a bit of a not the same. It does blend in, you know. So you only remember really special things that have happened, you know.
And with Paul Oakenfold, I mean, did you ever go? Did he ever come round to your house? Did you ever go round to his house and like talk about music and production and stuff?
It was funny. We used to before Spectrum happened. I'd left Flicks, and I was going through a bit of a bad, sad time in my life, but. Paul had come round at one point, and I'd played him a load of the house music I had, and Paul, you know, he was into hip hop. Him and Pete, Nicky, and all that. They're all into kind of hip hop music. And
well, Paul Oakenfold was as well, because Paul Oakenfold used to manage the London All Star Breakers.
Well, yeah,
I'm friends with a few of London All Star. Big up Dolby D and all the rest of them. And I interviewed Dolby, and Dolby was like, "Yeah, Paul Oakenfold used to manage us."
Yeah, Paul used to be working for Def Jam over here as well. He was taking around LL Cool J and stuff like that to, you know, when he's in promotions. So there was all that going on. So, you know, and then he'd come round, and we'd always play each other new music. You know, I'd go up to his house, come to mine. And then one day he'd come round mine and stand over, and I was sitting there and just played him all these tunes. Well, come forward a year later, I got this phone call from Paul. I remember it so well. And he went, "What are you doing Monday?" I went, "No, nothing." He went, "I've got a gig for you. Come down to Evan," and he said, "Be there for 9 o'clock." He said, "Oh, you know, you're on at 10 till 1 o'clock." I said, "What do you want me to play?" He said, "All that stuff you played me around your house, but don't talk." And I was thinking, well, for me, it's the greatest gig in the world. No, because I used to hate all the talk. You know, this is, that was, blah blah blah. So to just mix felt really easy. So I've turned up at this place. It was Spectrum, and Johnny Walker used to do Spectrum as well, and he wasn't there that night. So I walked in. This place there's a queue outside, and so I've gone on, and I've just started like, I just play all those tunes I played him, and I'm banging all this house music like that. And then I looked up, and the dance floor was rammed. And I remember Paul walking up to me, and it was heaven, they're up in the gods. And he walked up to me about 11 o'clock, he went, "Cool, get them going then, why don't you?" And he come on at 1 o'clock, so, you know, and then I started doing guest spots there, and then also he'd put on another Spectrum in London, Manchester on a Monday. So I was going up there with Trevor Fung every Monday, so we'd have Spectrum in Manchester.
Yeah, big up Trevor Fung. I'm hopefully going to be meeting Trevor. I need to get in touch with him.
I'm going to sort that for you.
Yeah, but Colin, when you first went to Heaven, I mean, that's the first like kind of West End club I went to, was Heaven, around 85 or early 86.
Yeah.
And when I walked in now, I was like, once again, I was blown away by the sound system
Oh.
and the light show. It was on another level, wasn't it?
Yeah, because
And at the time when I went, it was kind of like a gay night. I used to work with a gay guy, and he invited me down there. He said, "I'll come and check this club out."
gay nights, always the best music, always the best lights. Always.
It was an incredible. I was playing all this kind of like high energy music, but then obviously when you come along around when was it? What, 88?
88, yeah.
How did it feel to be playing on that sound system with the light show in this legendary club?
Oh, it was a turbo sound system there. So I'm loving it. And beside me up in the gods, God heaven, yeah, no pun intended. But up beside me is the lighting guy called Jock, and he would just have I can say this. He had a blast on his amyl nitrate, and he'd just bash into the lights, and so you had. At different times you had this light spectacular lasers going off and smoke machines and everything. Well, Ogie said to me when before I went to that gig, he said see how you go. He said you might feel like you've been hit by a train when you get there. and it was just like it was everything I would ever want in a club was on that Monday night. It was just
And in terms
beautiful.
in terms of equipment, deckage, what was the turntable situation? Was it like a couple of 1200s?
Two 1210s and a rain mixer. A rain mixer was the same one as I think they had in Paradise Garage, which is all right. I mean, I've got one of those at home as well. I bought one, but rain mixer was good. I had the crossfader. The funny thing with the crossfader was I was mad into the crossfader then. And it had this. It's like not a penny and Joel's, but it's a very slick crossfader, and I could bash from side to side and sample each track. So they used to call me the crossfader king. But then one day, one of the sound engineers came up to me because I'd break it, and
were you quite aggressive with it?
I think so. and then the guy came up to me and he was so polite, and it was a gay guy. It means nothing. He turned and went, Colin. He said, I know you're having a great time and everything, but he said, could you please try and be a bit more light-handed on the crossfader, because it's costing us £300 each time
you get on the deck.
And he presented me, I've still got it indoors, with the crossfader and the lug that's broken off, metal fatigued.
No, he gave you that?
He gave it to me.
You got about 20 of them?
No, I've just got it. No, it's the third one. And he went, can you just try and slide it? And instead of because I'd go bang, 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 bang.
That's so funny.
I know.
And can you, when you was DJing back in Spectrum, which was a legendary club, big up Paul Oakenfold and all that, can you remember a few little key tunes that were sort of, getting the crowd fired up back in Spectrum?
Yeah.
Or once again, is it a bit difficult to
No, it was the memory. It was
a bit hazy.
Split second Oak used to start the night off with a track called Flesh, was a track that was speeded up, and that would just be anthemic. And then, funny enough, KLF based a track on that, and that was anthemic. Another night that was really, really special was I've had a few, but I've three really legendary sets that I can remember that blew me away. But one of them was at Heaven when Oka did this thing. He said, I've got Graham Park coming down and Mike Pickering. He said, we're going to do, they did obviously Hacienda. He said, I'm going to do North versus South. So we had 4 decks at one end, 4 decks at the other end. So it was me and Paul at one end. And you know what?
Wow.
I remember that we had 4 decks at one end and 4 the other. And everyone says it was a great night, but that's all I remember about it. It's just quite sad, really.
But that's good. That's a good thing with music. Even though, I mean, you had the north and you had the south. It didn't matter whether you was from up the north or down in the south.
No.
We was all one.
Yeah, exactly.
We was all unified for music.
There was other things that helped that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say actually, because it was very divided back in the 70s and the early 80s. But when house music when we was first started hearing house music, these clubs were kicking off. Music really unified everyone together, because it didn't matter whether you was black, white, gay, straight. I mean, what religion you was, everyone was grooving under one roof, under this you know, this amazing music, and with a few little things scattered around as well. It's like a spiritual awakening.
It was strange. I always remember when I was doing, because I went on to Legends after that as well, and the guy come over to me in Legends in the, I won't say what football firm it was, but he came over to me and I said, there's a firm here. He said, it's going to kick off tonight. He said, they are proper trouble. He said, I might have to leave early. And I went, oh, okay, I didn't know what he was talking about. And he came over to me, an hour later, he came over to me, I don't believe that. Why is that? And he said the guy's name, he said...
They're all hugging each other.
He said, and so I'm waiting for him to kick off. He said, come over and went, mate, love you. He said, I don't know what's going on. So it took, ecstasy took violence off the terraces. You know, it did, because up until then it was quite, it was quite brutal out there. You know, you had all these football firms that was going around. It was just, it was a beautiful thing for a while.
Very divided. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it was all positive. Everyone was like, united under one roof.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean that. It was a lovely time, there was some magical things happening.
Some magical moments that we obviously can't speak too much on camera in the cab, but it was a magical time.
It was a magical time. And then of course while I was doing that, always Paul said to me once, I've got a gig for you. So I said, well, what's that? He said, oh, my mate's putting a gig on up in London, which was Paul Dennis, and he had a gig, it was Legends. It was Old Burlington Street. Legend.
I mean, that's another great club.
Oh, brilliant club, and the way it was designed, you used to
go down the stairs, didn't you? And the dance floor was downstairs.
But where the DJ was, you was overlooking the dance, and Goldmine was good like that, because you used to look over the floor and survey the whole building. So he said, "Yeah, I've got this gig. I can't do it anymore on a Saturday." Well, I think. In retrospect, he was leaving it because it wasn't working, and I met up with Paul Dennis. He was like, "Yeah, can you do it?" And I was working with this guy called Scotty. I can't remember. I was Scottish, but I can't remember his name. Anyway, so I was doing that, and I remember about 5 weeks in, sitting at the bar at the end with Paul, and it was still quite quiet, probably about 100 people. And I always remember I said to him, "You all right, mate?" And he went, "Yes." And he said, "Next week might be the last night." And I went, "Why'd you say that?" He said, "Well, look at what's happening." He said, "We can't keep running it like this." So I just said to him, quite early, I went, "Do you want me to help?" He went, "Well, what could you do?" He said, I said, "Do you want me to help me make it busier?" So he went, "Well, what could you do?" And I went, "How busy do you want it?" And he looked at me and he went, "Ooh." Well, there was a lot of people. By this time, we'd been doing these gigs in Southend called Club Art. And we had a really strong thing going there, because I'd been doing Spectrum and everything. We had this real positive vibe of all this South End crowd. I was going to finish Club Art, and then I'd go on to people's houses and carry on there, bring me decks or whatever. And so we had this really strong following. So the next week I think, look, you're all on the guest list for Legends in London. So suddenly it was mobbed outside, and I always remember there's some beautiful door pickers, and one of them was Barry at Heaven. And Barry was just such a classy dude.
Tell me what a door picker is, because is it like Philip Salon when he was at Mug Club, like he'd or basically like Jenny Ramplin at Shug?
I never witnessed what they did, so I couldn't possibly comment.
So basically they'd look at you to see, if you was kind of,
if you was kind of right,
safe enough to come in.
Yeah.
If you had that kind of like look to come in the club, you was allowed in.
Yeah, well that's what Barry was like. That Barry was very cool with it, and I've got to tell you later on, Barry was incremental with me doing the 60 seconds in a spin-off sort of way. But so we go back to that. But Angel was at Legends, and he was just so classy. He was just he's passed away now, rest in peace. But Paul Dennis had got him on the front door, and he was so into his gear and the look and everything. And he was the door picker. So of course this weekend, when all my lot have turned in, they don't know the coup and everything, they've just turned up. One of my friends had turned up in a pair of Dayglow shorts, and they just come over to me and went, "Look, Colin, this is trying to come into the club." and my mate Mark's gone, "I'm sorry, I didn't realise that. We won't have it again." I mean, a lot of years with me, can you just let it go, you know? So he let everyone come in that weekend. And of course, that was the turning point. It was a bit like that night at, you know, Flicks on the Thursday night, when it goes to a point where people attract people, and then that went like a, yeah, I mean, and George Michael used to come down, who's the other lot? Obviously his Oppo, can't think of the names. You know, and then once we were there, you know, when Batman was being filmed in London, and I think what's his name, Jack Nicholson was the Joker.
Well, he come down.
He was, so he turned around, Paul said to me, went, got Jack Nicholson in the VIP bar, and Harry Dean standing.
Wow.
So then someone's come up to me and went, Jack Nicholson's in a VIP and Harry Dean started. I went, yeah, come to all my gigs.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I know, that was what it was like.
But that was kind of like the West End scene, you know. Every now and again you would see a few stars. We was in the Wag Club years ago. I remember Mickey Rourke coming into the Wag Club.
Brilliant.
You know?
Yeah.
It was like, that was West End clubbing, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. And they and, you know, also to be able to go to a place where they wanted to be trumped on. Because I'll be honest, the Legends crowd was so into just getting off on dancing and stuff, you know, and just enjoying themselves. It wasn't about style, I can't say that word, but you know, they were just they were there for the club, not for who they'd see there, you know.
Just to have a great night.
Exactly.
With the music and a good crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, with Legends as well, you know, who else was DJing? I mean, did you have was it Paul Trouble Anderson?
I don't know if Paul did. Funny enough, Paul Trouble Anderson was doing. I did a gig in Pitsea after Legends, and that was Paul Trouble Anderson did the Friday night, and I did the Saturday there in a place called the Workshop. Paul was doing a lot of places. Paul was another pioneer of mixing and that. I've only worked with him once, and that was in a boat down the Thames, probably about 15 years ago. Lovely man. It was funny. His attitude, I loved it, because the boat was filling up and there was no one upstairs playing, it was just pipe music, and he looked at me and went, we should be playing music. He said, I know we're not booked on yet. He said, but you know, and that was it, you know, just playing music while people come on. It doesn't matter, there's no, I learned that from Oakie once. I said, there was something he said to me, I went, what, I'm warming up for you? He went, no, you're not warming up. He said, there's just the night and we're working together. I thought, yeah, that's it, innit? There's no, if you take away that, you know, first and second or whatever, it's just about, you know, getting on with it.
And you know, going back to a big RIP to Paul Trouble Anderson as well.
Yeah.
It's another absolute legend that we've got.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big RIP to Paul. But with going back to Spectrum, I mean, you know, was there like DJs, like other sort of up and coming DJs, like watching you mix and DJ? I mean, was you like inspiring anyone? Or?
I believe I was. A guy called Mickey Finn used to be.
Mickey Finn.
There was a beside the cage was this like crisscross mesh beside me, and Mickey Finn was there watching what I was doing, which I didn't think anything of. But the other guy was LSD. Always credits me as being an influence.
LSD.
Yeah. And the other one was lovely. We spoke to him earlier. Ray Keith. Ray Keith would come over. I mean, normally people ask. Some people can be a pest, and they could just be annoying people. But he was always so candid and respectful when he spoke to you.
And humble. He's such a humble guy.
Really, really humble. And he would. He was like, oh, sorry, I don't mind me asking, but that track you've got, blah 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 blah. And you know, he even phoned me up once, and that's a statement. You know, he phoned me up to ask me of advice about leaving his job because he'd been offered a job in a record shop, and I think it was a good career move. And you know, that's a lot. That's a lot to take on for someone to ask that sort of advice, because to give that advice is, you know, you don't.
It means he respects you.
Yeah.
Record digging, you know, being a DJ, record digging and, you know, finding your crop, you know, is pivotal to being a DJ. You know, they're basically selling the records, all the latest releases. You know, whereabouts was you know, record digging? I went, because it was funny, most of that Mafia DJ team, they used to go to City Sounds,
And because I knew they all went then, I thinking, well, they're all going to get looked after there. And I used to go to Groove Records, which I believe Greg Edwards used to go there, and a few others. So it was about finding a place that kind of looked after you. So for a long time, I went to Groove Records in Greek Street.
Groove was great, wasn't it?
It was great, and Gene was there. It was just
Gene's legendary.
Yeah, it's an elderly, like she's passed now, and Tim, and you know, basically, once they got into your head, what you wanted was someone that could just not play you everything. Once they knew your vibe, you know, it was like
they knew what you wanted.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. You like it. And the one thing that always used to put me on tilt is someone turned around to me in other records, someone went, "You want this? Everyone's on it." I go, "Well, if everyone's on it,
I'm having it." Oh,
no,
you're not having it.
No,
you're not having it.
I'm not having it.
Yeah, you want to be underground.
Because everyone else is playing it. No need for me to play it, is there?
You want to play the stuff.
I wanted to play something I found. So you know, what we used to do, there'd be one track on an album that you buy a track for. You know, there's not very few albums that come out like What's Going On, where every track's a winner. You know, so you'd have one track that you'd buy the album for whatever price it was back then, and it'd be for one track, but you could break that track, or you'd have a track that wasn't out on the single, that wasn't getting smashed. And it was all about picking up those ones, you know, before they were released. You know, I can remember buying the, was it Saving All My Love For You? What's that girl? The Bodyguard film.
Oh, Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
So I remember buying that because in Flicks I used to do the slow set, you know, the erection section or whatever, and it was great because you could play classy soul records, and I was, you know, some of those sort of laid back things you could play that weren't getting an airing on the main dance floor, but you could play a ballad during then. So you know, but picking up, you know, certain tracks that you'd have months beforehand. I remember one record, I walked to the record shop once and they played this track and I thought, I like this so much, you know, sometimes you question yourself because you like it so much and you think, is that right? And it was Rapper's Delight. And I remember playing it to my mate. I went, this is different. What do you reckon? He went, it's amazing. A guy called Les Irvin, he was our doorman. He went, it's amazing, mate. Don't question yourself. It's the bollocks. Yeah.
It's such a tune.
Yeah.
And with you know, with Spectrum, I mean, was you like meeting up with like other kind of, you know, like legends in the game, you know, like Nicky Holloway, you know, obviously Trevor Fung.
Nicky I knew anyway from doing weekenders and stuff like that. Trevor Fung, yeah, we obviously he went on to Raves, but sometimes he would, if Oaken was at, you know, more work Oaken was getting, he would disappear or do a guest somewhere, and I'd be with Trevor doing Spectrum, and then, as I say, we went up to London, went up to Manchester and started doing Legends in Manchester. So I was in the car for 5 hours, you know, up there and 5 hours back, and working from 10 till 2 on the Mondays. So yeah, and also you'd have people. What would happen is people would come down to Spectrum because it was so big. You'd have, you know, Frankie Knuckles would come down, Morales would come down, and Paul would always go, you know, and just sort of, you know, do you want to go on for a bit? And they'd go on and play a few tunes and everything. And I always had, I always remember Derek May gave me a really big, and he always remembers it because I've said to him once, you gave me the biggest compliment ever, and he went, yes, I mean it, buddy. And it was, I came off and he turned around and he went, he said, he wanted his first time I've seen a white bloke with rhythm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been incredible, like, you know.
It was a of all people, because I'd been playing his tunes, you know, for a while then, you know. Yeah, so to get that from him was kind of, yeah, that'd do, you know.
And did you meet Gary Hazeman as well?
Gary Hazeman was, Gary Hazeman, you know, this is a really good story. Gary, one night I'd gone out with Brian, my friend from Flicks, Paul Oakenfold, Gary Hazeman, and we'd gone out to wherever we'd gone out, and we'd come back. We got messy, we stayed at Gary's flat. He said, you'll all crash here. We woke up in the morning and Gary's gone, I'm going to make you the best breakfast you've ever had.
What's he do?
The English breakfast.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really good breakfast, because whenever we see him I was going, still the best fucking breakfast you've ever had, isn't it? But during that time, and I kid you not, this is where the phrase come from, we were sitting around talking, and he was very animated, Gary, and he was very much of a character. I mean, he started the acid chant, you know, he'd run through heaven. Yeah, he'd run through heaven shouting out, acid! And of course then Downton Danny D saw him and said, look, let's make a record, and that's how that transpired. So Gary was always very good at coming out with a new saying. And he sat there, and while he was in conversation, he said, blah, 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 and then it all went Pete Tong. And we've all pissed ourselves because of how he slipped in, because he knew Tongy and blah, blah, blah. And he said it. No. So from that little acorn, obviously, we've got that. And then we're reciting Pete Tong, you know.
Everybody used to say, oh, yeah, it's all gone Pete Tong.
No, it's gone from, it's become, that was the nucleus that came from that morning with Gary Haseman saying to us, it's all gone Pete Tong.
It's all went like wildfire,
Pete, you know, Gary Haseman started that saying. Gary was a master of the one-liner, yeah.
Yeah, big R.I.P.
Big R.I.P., yeah.
Big R.I.P. to Gary.
Very funny man as well. Him and Rocker. Together.
Johnny Rocker, yeah. I interviewed Johnny Rocker. I mean, what another great guy.
Yeah.
Like brilliant stories as well.
Yeah, he would have.
Yeah, big up to Johnny. But also, you know, with Heaven as well, there was a club I remember going to as well. It was like round the other side, round the back of Heaven. Soundshaft, yeah.
That's
what another great club had, the spiral staircase.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah. Well, that was pre-Heaven that started, and I used to do a night called Future there.
That's right.
That was Oakie and Nancy Noyes. And Nancy Noyes, who has a beautiful take on
big up
Balearic
to
music.
Nancy Noyes.
And there's an interview for you. Nancy Noyes is
I was in touch with Nancy. I need to get back in touch because I want to get Nancy and Lisa Ladd in the club. And do you know what? This was going to be another question I was going to ask you, and actually this was on my list. Is that back in the day it was a very, very male-dominated scene, especially obviously with the DJs. They predominantly were all male.
Yeah.
So when Nancy Noyes, Lisa Loud, and like Smoking Joe, and you know these DJs come along, you know they kind of. It was quite new, wasn't it? I mean, there wasn't really any other kind of female DJs. Not that I knew of.
Funny enough, at the same time, I had a girl come up to me when I was doing Legends, and she said, "Will you teach me to DJ?" And a girl called Debbie, and I taught her. But you know, I think Oakie was incremental in helping Nancy at the beginning. I think she'd agree with that, and probably Lisa.
I used to see them down the club in Deptford called the Albany. I mean, if Lisa or Nancy ever watches, they'll remember it, the Albany Empire in Deptford.
Well, they're two girls. Funny enough, we did Mysterium last year in August, and Lisa and Nancy were both there. And my wife, Keely, she's never really been into house music. She follows it now because of me and everything, and she's kind of into it. But she went to a gig a few years ago, and she said her voice to me was, "Everyone's pulling funny faces." And I went, yeah, I guess they are. Well, she was at Mysterium, and the music that was played there was one of my favourite gigs of last year. That and MFSB, but the music that was played there was just so. That's just the eclectic word, and my wife. She fell in love with Nancy Noyes and Lisa Loud's music. She
what personalities as well?
But she was just shazamming their music, and then she came over to me, "Why don't you play that?" I was like, all right. It's Nancy's buzz. Nancy is the queen of Balearic, you know. And at one point, it was funny in Mysterium. I woke up and I turned around, Nancy came on stage, and I fell asleep halfway through your set. So she went, "Oh, I lullabied you to sleep." I went, "I didn't want to fall asleep. I wanted to listen to your music."
No, they're great. I've got to get them both in the cupboard.
That'd be great.
Lisa, we've got to sort this out because it's been way too long.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing I was going to say, question I was going to ask you as well, Colin, is back in the day there was no internet, so you know clubs were promoted, whether it was word of mouth, down the pub. You know, flyers or pirate radio station. Now, the flyers back in the day were incredible, especially flyers like Shum, Spectrum. You know, and there was artists like Dave Little, big up to Dave. You know, Pez and Junior Tomlin. You know, these brilliant artists. You know, they had done an incredible job, didn't they, with these flyer designs?
It's funny. Someone put a post up on Facebook the other day, and there's a kid with a wad of flyers. and someone put their, if he'd have kept all those, he said how
He'd
much.
be a millionaire.
He'd be a millionaire.
Yeah.
No, Dave Little is. I mean, his artwork, it just off the scale. And you know what? And the character to boot. You know, I've partied with Dave a few times, been out with him, and still see him to this day. And he does jingles for my radio show as well, and I'm still waiting for him, Dave. You know, as different characters. And when he came down to see us last, and I went, I want a couple of jingles for him. And he does them, go, bang, first take, one character, boom, another character.
Dave's brilliant. And if anyone watching this, watch my interview with Dave Little.
Yes.
I'll put the link in this actually below, because Dave is another, you know, you could say like an unsung hero.
Yeah, but he's
from that rave generation.
A great storyteller as well.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And right, I'll tell you what, this is going to be exciting because we're going to be talking about music production now. So when did you start, you know, producing music, and what was the reason behind you wanting to, you know, make music?
No, there was the first one was it was funny. Back to the Erskine Thompson that said to me. He got in touch with me, and he'd been sending. It was like loose ends with our resident band down at Flicks. They'd be down there, you know, once a month almost, just doing a PA or whatever, on their way to another club. And then Erskine got in touch with me, and it was just at a time when I think Dave Durrell had a tune, and there was a lot of DJs were kind of getting it. Mark Moore had a tune, you know, and then Erskine got in touch and he said, "There's no finer time for you to make a tune than now," because what had happened was, with the house scene evolving, music producers had realised that the best person to create the tune that people wanted was a DJ that was playing the tunes that people wanted, that knew what sound they wanted. And then I heard a track, and I got in touch with Erskine. I said, "Look, we could cover this." And there's a track called Hypnosis, and what happened, so I've got the instrumental. He introduced me to a guy called Richard Cottle, and he put the formula down, you know, and all on the multi-tapes and everything. And of course I didn't have a hook for it. And then one night, what would happen when I started doing the crossfade thing and mixing really frantically, sometimes the crowd would start chanting mental.
That's right.
Yeah, so
I remember that.
Yeah, so it'd be, mental. And then I've turned around and gone, Paul was it was the inspector. I turned around, Paul went, I'm making a track. They said, yeah. So I've decided what you call it. What are you going to call it?
Mental.
He said mental. He went, I'm doing one called mental. And I went, you've had loads of tunes come out. Let me have mental. Let me have mental. So I went, all right. So yeah, that was it. And then so suddenly the first track I made was this mental. Had me. Richard Cottle, I put Erskine Thompson, because he'd put it all together as part of the band, so it was the three of us. We made it on downtime studios. I can't remember it. Come on, Roundhouse Studios.
Oh, Roundhouse Studios.
Roundhouse Studios, and a guy called Paul Borg, who was the young blood at Roundhouse Studios, was learning his. He'd actually appeared in Grange Hill. He was, you know, so he was a bit of a thespian and learning his art. And he did the mix on Mental, and so anyhow that charted. It would have charted very high, but then what happened was, I think Erskine had bought a few too many copies locally, and we got a thing called weighted, so it took it down from its high position down a bit. So yeah, we charted it. So I've had a top 30 hit. So that was that. And it all seemed a bit easy, because the first track I've done, it's the worst thing that ever happened to you. First track you've done successful, because then how do you follow it? But we followed it. We involved another guy called Morgan King, and he had some input and had a track that we put together, was called The Beat. Now after that, during that time, we were going up to, that's the tenuous link with Barry and Audio Deluxe. We were going up to Manchester each week, and because it's a 5-hour journey, and we were always leaving late because travel was never ready, so we'd always be leaving late, so it was always in rush hour. Anyway, on the way up, so we'd come up with different cassettes of us working and whatever, and then one day Barry turned around and went, I've done this cassette acid opera. So he's putting it on, and then we're driving back one night, and I'm listening to it, and it was this bit of music, and I went, "That's the music from A Few Dollars More." He went, "No, this is Suspiria." It's a film that was made a few years ago called Suspiria. It's a sort of a horror film.
I remember it.
Yeah, sort of art house movie, and of course that made me think of A Few Dollars More.
Ennio
Morricone. So then I pulled that out, and then I thought that could make a tune.
Wow.
And
so it was your idea behind the Ennio Morricone sample?
Yeah, well, and we didn't use the sample in the end, because what happened was, I've played it to Paul Borg, but this time I was loving his work, and I said, "Look, could we do this?" And he went, and he kept trying to get that sound, you know, the ding, 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 ding. And in the end, he did it on a glockenspiel. Obviously, not on a glockenspiel, on an Atari.
Oh, so it's not even a like.
That's not even a sample.
It's not even a sample.
And, no. And the great thing is, because we can always tell when ours has been sampled, because Paul said it's not. He doesn't actually play what Morricone did. He plays it, but he puts a little roll on it, and that's on our one. So there's a slightly different roll on it. So it's a glockenspiel. It's not the sample. We did sample things like the flute and a few other bits, and obviously Clint Eastwood, spoken word on it.
I'll tell you what, on that note, should we actually play a little bit of the 60 seconds?
Why not?
Yeah, let's grab the speaker. Right.
When the chimes end, just try.
Were you ever young?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, I still get lost in the moment in it.
I mean, it's such an amazing track, and I'm sure everyone watching this, will salute you guys for making that tune, because that is, it's another classic.
Do you know what I should mention is that mix you play there, because I mean we did a rap mix, we did a vocal mix. The first vocal mix singing on it was a lady by the name of P.P. Arnold. Which was on the white label that I pressed up, but she become she lost a bit of interest, so we got someone to cover it, and a guy called Two Tone did the rap. That original instrumental is the one that everyone went for, and the mad thing was, I said to it, because what happened at the time of that coming out, my father had passed away, and it was the one thing I'd played to him. I remember playing it to him. He said, "I really like that, son." And I said, that's why it's called the George James mix, because my dad's name's George James.
Oh, is it really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, George James Hudson.
Wow.
And I said to Paul, I said, "Look, do you mind if we call that mix the George James mix?" And he went, "No, of course not." So, and now of course that's been the one that's the one. I mean, of all the tunes I've done, I suppose, yeah, it's a very special track. I mean, I love Ennio Morricone. Paul and I, when we used to do music, because we did a few things together, we both loved John Barry. We both loved Ennio Morricone, and you know, those big orchestral string sounds, you know. So I went to see Ennio Morricone before he passed away at the O2. You know.
Oh, he's amazing.
Ah, fabulous. Yeah. And the wealth of music that he's done, you know. But no, that was always a special tune. Yeah.
R.I.P. to your dad as well. I'm sure he's looking down on us now in the cab, actually, and, you know, yeah, it's quite a special moment. I'll tell you what, should we play Mental as well?
Mental was a massive tune. Even now, if I post it, people go, I've been after that record for years. That and the beat were both two big house tunes to entertain. But yeah, Mental's.
I'll tell you what, let's fire up Mental. Let's take it way back into time. We're going to be playing Manic MC's Mental, and for anyone who remembers this, leave a comment, because what another absolute stone cold classic. Right, let's hit the play button. Seriously, what an absolute anthem.
There's a bit towards the end of that, and There was a guy in Roundhouse used to be their technician, and he invented this. He made this box, and he called it a bass suck. And towards the end of that, you hear this like doof, doof, doof. And we had to be really careful for it because in the edit, it sounds old now, but it didn't knock the needle out of the groove because it gives such a resonance in the mix. In the cut, they had to be very careful because it just, you'll hear it's right towards the end. It's like he called it a bass suck.
A bass?
Yeah, a bass suck.
Suck.
yeah, with an S.
Wow. But what an absolute tune. You know, I remember clubbing to that back in the day, and it was literally going off, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, proper mental.
Absolute mental. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you obviously done a few other tracks. You've done Shine On as well, didn't you, with Charlotte Harvey?
Charlotte Harvey, yes. Well, no, what happened was I was doing a tune, and I call it Charlotte Harvey, but she was one of my biggest fan. If I was doing a gig somewhere, she'd get tickets. If I said I'm going somewhere, she'd say, where are the tickets? We did a place in Cavos, she would get me tickets. And sadly she passed away. She had that lung illness where it not cancer, but it disintegrates your lungs basically, and she passed away, and it was just at the time of making that tune, and I just called it, and she'd had a shop called Sparkle where she sold lots of glittery stuff, so we called it the Charlotte Harvey Sparkle track. It was special.
It was a very special track, and actually so special I think we should play it. So let's give it a little push. So RIP to Charlotte Harvey, and this is the Sparkle mix of Shine On.
Corazón, con mi ritmo esa canción que te mueve, que me mueve. Esa sensación que nos llena de calor bajo el sol. Vamos a gozar la vida de otro color, ritmo brasileño.
special of you as well, Colin, to actually, you know, do that production for Charlotte?
Oh, but yeah, she was a very, if you know, she was a very special person. You know, one of those people just taken far too soon. Life's cruel sometimes, and yeah, she was a beautiful person, beautiful soul, and you know, I'm really grateful that she was in my life, and I'm grateful my wife met her as well. You know, and my daughter. My daughter made a wreath for her. My daughter's a florist, and I'm getting a bit of a chill here, not because of the heating, but just a tingle. You know, yeah, it was. And she'd even written her you know, a bit for a funeral. Her funeral was mad. Her coffin was sparkly.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and she had Faithless played at the end. I Cannot Sleep, you know, at the funeral. And it was just it was a beautiful send off, and a very emotional. Yeah, beautiful soul. Great loss. Yeah.
Yeah. R.I.P. Going back to the say the Casters. Let's talk about the Caster Weekenders.
Yeah, now that's an interesting one, because that's a big shout for me and Trevor Fung. We were booked for the '88 Caster. There was 2 weekenders going on. There was one lot, and then a guy had come, Johnny Morris had come back to promote at the old Caster site. So it involved me and Fungy. But of course, by this time, me and Fungy are banging the house, you know, doing legends and everything, and Trevor said, "What are you going to do when we get the case?" I said, "Well, I want to pay a bit of house." And there's a thing, you know, and I've said this before, you know, these days a lot of the old soul DJs will play house music if it's called soulful house, because they feel comfortable with it, and yet, you know, Joe Smooth, you know, Promised Land, pretty soulful house back in '88, you know, but it's just, and then we're dismissing it. Oh, you're playing house music now, what, you know? And that's what me and Paul were always used to saying. It's all about moving on with music, you know. Otherwise, you end up like, you know, that Teddy boy with the DA and no air left, but the DA at the back, where you're locked into that, you know, or the mod that's just locked into just old Northern Soul, you know, just hasn't moved on. And that's what you know, Paul and I when we used to go to each other's house, was always playing new music to each other. What do you reckon of this? What do you reckon of this? I remember, you know, he played me one of the first drum and bass tracks that come out around Paul's. It's like, what do you think of it? You know, he was experimenting with new styles. So there was me and Funky. We want to play some of this new stuff we found. So we went to this Caster. And we've dropped them in. I've done what I normally do, mix it in and everything, and it kicked off. And there were guys, and one guy particularly, and I won't mention his name, was moaning so much. They were playing house music at a soul music event. This guy is now a very big house music DJ. That he was really sort of pissed, you know, having a go at me and Fungy for playing it. And at one point, Johnny Morris had put it on. He said, "We're going, look, can we just have one room where we can play our music to?" So at 2 o'clock, and we're back in the times where everything used to finish at 2, you know. And so at 2 o'clock, he gave us a room. So it's obviously finished. He said, "Look, you can have this for an hour." And you know, I said there was 3 gigs that I remember, and this was the second gig I remember so well. And it was me and Trevor going back to back, and we always worked well back to back. And you know when you look at a room and it was locked. And they were all locked, not a formation dance, but you could see they were all passionately into music and moving in like one sort of fluid mass. And it stuck with me so well that whole hour. And like Nick, and Trevor used to say, he said, "I like working with you because you make me work hard." And, you know, and it was just, you know, so he'd put something and bang one in, he'd put one on and bang one in. And then Johnny Morris has come in about 2:30 and he went, I can't believe all these people are still up and got so much energy.
I wonder why. Yeah.
Well, because no one wanted to go at 3 o'clock, so yeah.
Amazing times. How did it make you feel, you know, when you was playing all this music and like you're seeing the crowd like going off to the tunes you're spinning?
I think it's the best buzz. It's the best buzz in the world.
It must give
you
you goosebumps.
And do you know what's even more beautiful, Steve, is years later, now a friend of mine was putting on a weekender, and it was a soul weekender, and he phoned me up and he said, I'm trying to think of his name. I can't think of it in a moment. I hope I do. He'll kill me for not remembering. But he said to me, I want you to come and do a gospel. He said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, and it was a soul meeting. He went, I want you to do what you did in 1989 in that room. He said, where you played. And I went, what, on vinyl? You know, you'll have to pay more if I'm going to take vinyl these days. But he said, I want you to recreate that. I went down to the gig. And we've got a few people with us, and they put me on in this room. It was before me was like a Northern Soul set, and I was sitting there thinking, oh, it's not Frankie. I'm trying to think of his name. So anyhow, I'm going on after all these kids are dancing Northern Soul, and I'm thinking, oh, cheers, mate, cheers. You know, this is gonna fall on my face. And I did me normal. I started with you know, something to do, no, career or something like that, you know. And that kind of filled the floor, and the next thing I looked up about a few records, because I was just doing me normal, like bang, 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 because I had a box full of records, and I thought, well, I'd just try and play all those, but I mix them in, because everyone knows what they are, so you don't need to play all of it, because I'm just going for a vibe. And I just banged them all in one night, and I looked out, and everyone was going berserk.
Oh, they was loving it?
I was loving it! Wow. I was loving it, and I can always remember he was standing, It was. I'm going to turn my phone on and try and get his name. We can come back to it in a minute. And everyone was, and he was sitting there, like leaning up against the wall, looking at me, and he had this real smug face on him, as much as to go, "I told you so." Sure, it's Jamie something. I'm not.
Jamie Trundle. Jamie Trundle?
No, Jamie Trundle.
Yeah.
How'd you get that?
Oh, I looked it up. Heavy Soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heavy Soul. So it was Jamie Trundle.
Jamie Trundle.
Yeah. Oh, big up to Jamie as well.
Yeah, so Jamie Trundle has asked me to recreate this this set, and I stood there and I thought I was going to die on my arse, and of course then and when I've looked up, and it's a bit like that night of heaven when I was sort of mixing away, and then looked up and the floor's full, you know. I looked up and everyone's going to, and it was a really special night. And then he'd come over and he's like, I told you. I told you. Yeah, and it was funny. There's a friend of mine, his wife is a DJ, and his wife was looking at us, a bunch of DJs at the back, which is there, and there was a soul DJ and all had their arms crossed. And where everyone was clapping at the end of my set, she just turned around and looked at me and went, "Here you go, boys. That's how it's done." Yeah, it was funny. But no, I really thought I was going to die on my arse.
But you turned it around.
Well, yeah, it was that old thing. If people are into good music, and I was playing the best of the house sort of thing, you know, and I was giving it my best shot, and of course they were into it, you know, but it was just me thinking, oh, how's this going to work after a Northern Soul set, thinking they're all going to be.
But they embraced it.
They embraced it, yeah, because they're into music. There's me thinking, oh, they're all music snobs, they won't like it, and he was just so, you know, Jamie was just like, told you.
Brilliant. Yeah. And did you meet any celebrities back in the day? You know, like through the years of with a DJ. I mean,
so I got invited.
What other celebrities have you met?
I met, well, obviously I toured with U2 as well. We'll move on to that in a minute. So I met the band there who were just become friends. Yeah, quite a few. I've just done like, you know, the biggest one was in a way Bruce Willis, because
Bruce Willis.
Well, oh. Bruce Willis. I got invited to do a gig in not Singapore, where is it? Hong Kong, and there was a few people out there, you know, who I'm friends with now. Robbie Vincent's daughter Natalie was out there, and a few others. So I've got booked to do this gig. Well, because the guy was a new promoter, all the regular promoters were trying to put gigs on that night. So he was really struggling that night. It was the same night as Planet Hollywood was opening in Hong Kong. So what happened, we weren't the busiest club, but suddenly someone's come over to me, one of Natalie's friends, she turned around and went, Patrick Swayze's over there. And then someone else has gone, not John Belushi's the other one, Belushi, his brother. Yeah, so they went, he's here. also the guy from Apocalypse Now, his son, yeah, Charlie
Sheen.
Charlie Sheen's there. So basically, they've all come from the opening. They've turned up at our gig. So we weren't the busiest gig, but we had this. It was full of stars.
Yeah.
And then I had my girlfriend at the time was from Japan, and she was there, and she was out there on the dance floor. And Bruce Willis walks over to me, and he goes, looking at me, he went, "Hey buddy, can you play blah blah?" I went, "Oh, I haven't got that." He went, "Hey, don't matter." He walked off.
Can you remember what tune it was?
No. He was asking for stuff I hadn't even heard before. So I don't know.
What sort of stuff was it?
I don't. It might have been rock records, just stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I had my stuff that I was going to play, which was like a regular house set.
Yeah.
And he come over again. "Hey, buddy, can you play tonight?" I went, "Oh, no, sorry." The third time he came over, I went, "I'm really sorry, man. No, I haven't." He went, "Hey, buddy, it's okay. What you're doing is great." And I went, I could tell by this time, you know, when you get an essence of someone, I thought, it's the way he's acting, probably up for the crack. And I went, "Can you do me a favour?" He went, "What is it?" And I went, "See that girl over there? It's my girlfriend." He went, "Leave it with me, buddy." And he's walked straight over to her, tapped her on the shoulder and went, "Hey, I'm Bruce."
Wow.
And the next thing she's run over to me going, "You'll never guess what."
I met Bruce Willis. Yeah, starstruck.
I know you have, yeah.
Yeah. What a legend.
Yeah, no, and you know, after that, Bruce ruled in my book, because anyone that's up for the crack,
Yeah.
you know, and that was always the same with and funny enough with you two, the boys there, and Oki and all, you know, Nicky Holloway, all of those people, just up for the crack. But you just say let's do, you know, and even now when I'm out with those boys, you know, with Nicky and Oki, it's all about the crack. It's all about taking the mickey and having
just having a laugh,
having fun,
not taking it too seriously.
It's there, can't take. You know, I said this once. I was sitting there once, and there was a guy in front of me. He's quite a big known DJ, but he was pontificating about DJing, and he was like, "It's what gets me into trouble. This is why I don't get booked so much now, because I piss people off." But he was there, and he was like, "Well, I think when you do your set, it's only right that you should blah 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 and sort your music out because you owe it to." I went, "God's sake, mate, we're not sorting out the Middle East. We're only playing records, you know." And it's, you know, some people get so far up their arse, you know.
Totally.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just music, you know.
Yeah. But music is our lives, and you know, it's something that has been instilled to us from a very, very early age. So, will you always be DJing and always? It's a silly question, really, because I know the answer. But you know, what does music mean to you? Would you ever go into retirement, or?
Yeah, it's funny. What happened was, you know, in that Ray Keefe interview, he interviewed me a week after my brother passed away, and it was just at a time when I'd been working at another radio station. It's all right, you know, but I worked from my house because my equipment I felt was better than theirs. But I was doing a 3-hour session. I'm not great with radio in some ways, and I decided to retire from there. And the word got out that I was retiring, and I'm far from retired. I still do gigs. I'm still, you know, I don't know. I can't think of retiring. Music is, you know, what would I do? I love music. I love playing music. I love having an audience. You know, so I did when my brother passed away, and I did lose my mojo for a bit.
Had a bit of time out.
Yeah, I did. You know, and yeah, I did lose my mojo, and but then, you know, he wouldn't have wanted that from me, and you know, and I've got the buzz back now. And then, strangely enough, around this time a year ago, I was in contact with a guy called Morgan Khan from Street Sounds Radio, and probably a little bit before. Anyhow, we were talking about. I said, "Yeah, all right, I fancy, you know, doing something again." As much as I'm not a bit anti-radio, because just talking into a microphone and a brick wall doesn't fly my boat, you know, or sail my boat. And but anyhow. Yeah, we worked out I was going to go in there. I went to Thailand last year with my wife, and we come back, and the deal was in March I started at Street. Well, when I went to the studio, that was a proper wow factor. I mean, I love things that are done professionally, like, you know, like you do. It's like, you know, I love it when it's, you know, it's all proper. There's TV screens everywhere. It's a proper decks. There's two 1210s. There's two CDJs. You know, a proper mixer. You know, Studio A, Studio B, countdown clock, red light, red mic on, and it's so professional. You know, I had a clunky first show, but I enjoy it so much now. I've never enjoyed radio as much as I do at the moment. And the great thing is that as with the radio station before Stomp, they let me do my thing, which is important for me, because, you know, I did one radio station once, and the week after they started telling me what they wanted, and I was like, well, no one tells Colin Hudd how to be Colin Hudd. And I said, I'm leaving. They said, when? I went, last week. You know, because that was it. I walked away with so many radio, because it's just not my thing. It's like, if I don't get a buzz from it, I'm not going to, it's a bit like the hip hop thing. If you're not buzzing with it, then you shouldn't be doing it. And but I do enjoy the interaction and the professionalism and being on street sounds, you know. So, and I'm enjoying going out clubbing as well, you know. When I go, I've got Mysterium coming up to do a lovely gig in Edinburgh every year, MFSB. We've got a boat party coming up I'm putting on for a Flicks reunion, and
wow, I need to go to that, Colin.
Yeah, you do.
I will go to that, so please keep me posted.
I will.
And
you haven't asked about U2 yet.
Do you know what? I was just about to ask about that. That was going to be my next
I didn't know if
question.
you was wrapping up then.
No, you're like a mind reader. You're like a mind reader. Right. Let me just. And that was going to be the next question I was going to ask you. So, how did you hook up with U2? I mean, U2 are like, you know, I mean.
Yeah, it's another Oakie story. It's another phone call from Oakie. You know, that man.
Oakie, didn't he do the? Was it Lemon?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's funny.
I love that tune as well. Lemon.
He did also. Anyway, it's one of those I was saying earlier. You know, playing it back. I said to him once, "That's great. You give me the gig at Spectrum and everything." I mean, Cole, you gave me the biggest gig I'd ever played at when you give me Flicks, and you sort of forget that. But you know, on the other hand, I'd like to think he used me because I could do what I did. But so anyway, I'm sitting indoors at a girlfriend's house at the time, and the phone rang, and it's me, Paul. He went, got a gig for us all through the summer. And I went, all right. He said, playing between 30,000 and 100,000 people.
Brilliant.
And he went, I'll ring you up tomorrow and see if you're up for it. Have a think about it. And he put the phone down. I'm sitting there thinking, someone's got a really big house scene going in Europe, and I don't know about it. And I'm scratching my head. I don't know. I don't know. And he rings me up next day, and he said, "You up for it?" Then I went, "Yeah." He said, "He says U2."
Wow.
I went, "Oh." He said, "Look, you know." Anyway, I went, "Yeah, all right." He said, "Look, I can't do all the gigs. I'm gonna do 20 of them." He said, 40 dates. It's all over Europe. He said, "Ones I can't do, can you do it?" I went, "Yeah, okay." We did 20 dates each. And
did you meet like Bono and all?
Yeah, of course. I was in the same hotel as him. And
I bet that was a right crack. Wasn't it?
Yeah, hysterical. Larry, proper up for the crack, and I had an embarrassing story. But the fun before that though, I got a phone call back from Paul. He went, "Cole, they want to interview you, see if you're all right." And the person that interviewed me was a guy who was their stylist by the name of Finton Fitzgerald, and he interviewed me to see if I was. I suppose he wanted to see if people like us, isn't it? You know. Anyhow, I passed the interview and I was there, but there was one moment. It was a very funny moment actually, and Paul knows I've got a habit of putting my foot in it sometimes, and I was there the night before. I went the night before to get the DJ unit built. You know, we designed what we wanted, where the decks was going to go, and the mixers, and CDs, and anyhow, Paul said to me, "Yeah, all right, I'll be over on the Sunday." I mean, they was doing their first one in Feyenoord Stadium, and I went to go in. Saying that night, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm trying to keep my nose clean and just keep out of everyone's way and just not mess up. And a girl's come over to me and she's gone, I went to go to the lift and she went, band's coming. I went, oh, I stepped aside. And now she walked in the lift and a guy went in behind her and I was like, and she went, oh, you can come in. And I'm standing there, so there's 3 of us in the lift and the lift's going up and I'm thinking, well, that ain't a band, is it? So stupid me, I've gone, I thought you said the band was coming. And she went, ha. And then she went, have you met Larry? Who's the drummer of U2, who created the band.
Wow.
And I've gone, oh mate, I'm so sorry. And you go, no, it's fine. I was like, no. And the next morning she saw me at breakfast and she went, you all right? I went, no, I'm not. So she went, no, if you know Larry, he's fine. I went, no, I just didn't, you know. She went, no, honestly, don't beat yourself up. And then I said a few days later, Paul's come over on a Sunday and we were talking this and then I said, oh, I did have an incident last night. He went, oh, what you done? And I went, oh, I told him what had happened. And he went, oh, Carl. And I didn't know. I said, you know, the band's coming off. It was a band, you know, and I didn't recognise Larry Mullen. So then fast forward to the Wednesday and their manager come over to us and said, he said, oh look, it's Bono's birthday on the Monday, would you mind playing some music there after? So we okay. So at this point we're walking through just before we started playing music and Finton's gone, oh look, I'll introduce you to the band, because obviously we've done our bit but we haven't actually, you know, met them properly. So he said, yeah, that's Bono, yeah, hello, yeah, that's Adam, yeah, hello, that's Edge, hello. We get to Larry just looks at me and goes, who the f*** are you? and so, yeah, sorry about the language, but so for the next few weeks, whenever I saw Larry, he would just look at me, every time he walked past me. But as he said it, Finton looked at me and went, oh, obviously you two have met.
And he went back to the lift.
Okay.
Went back to meeting it when you met him in the lift.
Yeah, he was just, you know, kept just taking a mickey out of like me not recognising him, and so you know, so it was that standing joke of like, who are you? So obviously, Finton realised from our banter that we must have already met.
I mean, you must have had so many laughs.
Oh, honestly, it was great though. It was, I mean, there we were. We had dressing rooms, you know, with. You know, I've still got it at home, you know, Sir Roper and Colin Hudd, and that was on my dressing room door. And I had a moment once when I was in Cologne, I come out of my dressing room and opposite me, the dressing room door there, was Lou Reed. Lou Reed on the dressing room door. And I'm having a moment, I'm looking at the dressing room door, I'm thinking, my dressing room's opposite Lou Reed.
Wow.
And with that, a girl come along who was one of the backup singers for one of the bands that was on Stereo MCs, and she went, what are you looking at? And I've gone, that's Lou Reed, isn't it? And she went, who's that then? It's one of them moments, you know, when it's like, yeah, I'm having my moment, but she literally didn't know who it was, you know. She's a young girl, yeah. So there was a lot of moments like that, you know. There's another famous, you know, he was walking off stage as I'm walking on to go and play music, and part of you're starstruck, but you don't want to be starstruck, because, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm a fan, you know. It's part of my musical roots, you know. Oh. Cyndi Lauper was in an after, you know. There's all these people in after parties that you can't go up and go, oh, you know. You've got to try and be cool and everything, and you don't want to be naff, but you're still there thinking, wow, you know.
What an amazing life to be honest, Colin.
Yeah, I've been very lucky.
Yeah, unbelievable. And to Ibiza quite a bit.
I did a few in Ibiza.
Where was you playing in Ibiza? I mean, what a place Ibiza is.
Yeah, I played in Space. I played in the Terrace. I played Pasha. I played most of the trouble is I've forgotten a load of the ones I played in.
Amnesia, Coup.
I've never played Amnesia. I played in Coup. Pasha, yeah.
You done Space?
There's Paradise, I think I've played there.
There's Paradise, yeah.
It all becomes a bit of a blur though, doesn't it? They're just, one goes into another one.
What did you think of Ibiza? You must have loved it.
I loved it. I mean, the thing is, because of the records I'd had, 60 Seconds, Jose Patilla had he said to me, I made a lot of money out of you on cassette number 13. Yeah, because of 60 Seconds. And so, yeah, and there was also a lot of other DJs, Carlos Diaz and...
I mean, Jose Padilla, what another legend.
Oh,
a big R.I.P. to me.
Yeah,
I mean,
amazing.
Legend.
Beautiful, filthy music. Same style side as me as well. But yeah, he was, great. So yeah, and of course people, there was String Bow was Mental had been out there as well, which was a big record out there. So when I went out there, which was 90, I went out there after the U2 tour. So it was my first time in Ibiza. It was in '93.
I think that's when I first went out, around 92, 93.
Yeah, and I was kind of a mini celebrity because of those two things, So that
I know, like Trevor Fung and all them like that. Some of them were going out there early doors. Weren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what there's a story of Funny was out there, and then Nicky Holloway, Oakie, and a few others went over there and all did their first something and fell in love with house music and Alfredo and everything, and then came back and did Spectrum and Shum and everything. So yeah,
it's been an incredible time, and Colin, what an absolute journey you've had.
I have.
A bit like, I mean, you've been in my cab now for the past like hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't even know how long it's been, but how do you feel when you kind of look back on what you've actually done? You must be like, it must blow your mind.
Do you know what? I don't think of it normally, but sitting here with you and the last few week or so where I've been sort of sending you bits and pieces to nudge me or remind me. Yeah, I suppose there is a lot there, and we still haven't covered everything. It's poor old Ray Keith, and when I see him in Thailand, he'd look on his face. No, I hadn't seen him.
Because you opened up a bar in Thailand.
No, I went out to Thailand to open the bar, and I'd just become a fully paid up member of AA and not the Automobile Association. Yeah, so I was opening the bar, and then I was living in, and that didn't work. Recovering alcoholic, working in a bar was never going to work in early recovery. So I moved to Koh Samui for a bit, and the girl I was with at the time, I remember walking past, I said, Ray Keith, I think I know that guy. I think it's the same one. And I said, look, make sure we come back here tonight at 9 o'clock, whenever it was. And bearing in mind, I hadn't seen Ray for, quite a few years. Yeah. So, of course, I don't know, because I had sort of backed off, and when I was in Thailand, I did actually think, maybe I should just give it all up now, I've done my time. And so anyhow, I've come back and I kind of walked in to see if it is this guy. And as I walked in, if you see the look on Ray Keith's face as I walked in, and the jaw drop, and I was like, oh, it is you. And he's going, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm teaching English. Essex boy teaching English. The irony's not lost. And so that was funny, but then when I did come back from Thailand, there was a young man by the name of Al DeMello, and that was a funny thing, because there was a disco shop across from me, and of course I'd sold all my equipment when I'd gone to Thailand and thought that's it, and then I bought a couple of decks again, so I had all this music I still wanted to play, even at home. And I was going to this disco shop, and then one day I walked over there, and this Ian Sellers said to me, there's a guy after you. He said, you walked out of here the other night, bearing across, I lived 200 yards across the road. He says, you walked out, he said, a bloke walked in and said, do you ever hear of Colin Hudd? He just walked out of the shop.
Wow.
And he's the guy who started putting on the Flicks reunions.
Oh, really?
Al DeMello. Yeah, and he told me, he said, I used to carry your boxes in. Back to those things, where people pay
the ton.
But it comes round again. And he said, I used to carry boxes in, you probably don't remember me. And I went, I do, I remember you carrying boxes out once. And Yeah, and he started putting on the Flicks reunions, and you know, he had a print company, and that's where that all started coming back up again. So you know, so then yeah, but it was funny when I did the first one he did for me in a bar he had in Bexley. You know, when I felt really rusty and everything, and then a few years later he come over to me and he said, "You're actually at the Standard now. I remember you at when you stopped, not like you were when you had your prom up at the Zero Bar." So yeah, all good.
But yeah, I mean, going with the record boxes, your back must play up as well from all that, because them things weighed a ton, didn't they?
Osteoarthritis, yeah. We used to, and you know, it was back in the days as well, because we was taking vinyl to Zeropa, and we had a metal box with the records in, and we'd have to try and lift it up to the. You know what I mean? Can you imagine how much that weighed? Supposed to be 10 kilograms. We'd have to try and lift it up like there's no weight at all to put it in the overhead locker. And I remember once a woman looking at me going, "Can I just check that, sir?" She went, "You can't put that up there."
But listen, it's Colin. We're going to have to round this up, but all I can say is what an absolute amazing interview, and what an absolute incredible history you've got. I'm pretty blown away by all, you know, as you know, we've been talking over the past 2 weeks or so, but it's been an incredible journey.
You know, you've asked some an amazing question, Steve, and I knew from some of the other interviews you've done, I was looking forward to this interview, because I knew you had a feeling and a vibe about you, and you know, I think gut feelings are given to us for a reason, and I thank you for your time.
No, listen, mate, it's been an absolute honour, and listen, I hope you've actually enjoyed this interview.
I have. You sure that meter's off?
Actually, it's not. That's 2,500 pounds. But no, listen, it's been an absolute honour, Colin. I'm absolutely blown away by the history. Anyone watching this, please leave a comment below, because I'm going to be sharing this all around the platforms, all around, you know, because Colin is basically like one of the unsung heroes. You know, this guy deserves his flowers. You know, it's been an absolute honour having you in the cab, Colin. It really has.
Thank you. It's been lovely being here, mate. Thank you.
It's been an absolute honour, mate. And listen, as we say in the old cab game, be lucky.
Okay, it's nice to see you with your red turned round as well, because that's how I like to see a cab driver with his red turned round talking to me.
I don't want to crash into nothing.
Cheers, Steve. Thank you.
It's been an honour, mate. It's been an honour.